Hello. As it's International Women's Day, I'm just taking 5 minutes out for a bit of a point of reflection, really, and I suppose reaching out to maybe people who were in a similar position to me many moons ago. So I started my profession about 20 plus years ago, so shush, secret. So I'm a planner by trade, a town planner, came out of university, fresh-faced, ready to kind of hit the world running. I found pretty soon on that I was entering quite a male-dominated environment. I guess, did it faze me? I don't think it necessarily fazed me, but I did feel that at times I've had to work quite hard to break some perceptions about females in the particularly moving into more senior positions within organisations. I've been quite lucky in that I've had a series of very strong both female and male mentors, and I think that's been really important. My advice, I suppose, if I was going to talk to my younger self, is keep going. Be authentic, so keep your moral compass. I think never stop learning, so I'm never going to stop learning. I was studying for my master's in business administration whilst I was pregnant with my first child, and it was really hard, and bringing up children and trying to do all that juggling as well, it just brings another dimension into trying to make a really positive career, but you can do it. So keep going. As I say to my children, always try your best, and that's the best you can do. You will make mistakes along the way. I certainly made a fair few, but you learn by them. So never stop learning and enjoy your role in the world. Take care.
Hi, I'm Beth Timmons. I'm the Welfare and Diversity Officer here at the University of Gloucestershire Student Union. I feel very empowered to be in this role, especially as a woman. I was elected in by my fellow student body, so I feel like I represent the views of everyone quite well. I also meet with the exec a lot of the time and lobby them to make change within the university, which I think is very important, especially within the higher education sector. It's a very male-dominated area, so I feel very empowered to be able to speak and make change where I can.
My name's Claire Thayers, and I have my own CSR consultancy, Claire Thayers and Associates, and I'd love to celebrate International Women's Day with you and just share a few golden nuggets of wisdom that I've learned over my 60 years. And believe you me, we as women are gifted with emotional intelligence, and that really helps us with our careers. Well, at least I think it does. I did just 1 year after finishing at Pates Grammar School, doing a secretarial course. I didn't think I was bright enough to do A-levels or university. Crazy now. I now realise that actually I could have done it, but I just lacked confidence. So rule number 1 is believe in yourself. We can achieve anything. We really can. And I did go on to do an Institute of Leadership and Management course in my 40s, so it's never too late. I did my marketing, earned a living. I had children to pay for, so putting food on the table was more important than thinking about careers in those days. But I was lucky that I actually progressed. And when I started at this design agency, Fisherling and Benyon, at 20, I went in as a Girl Friday doing my typing. But 12 years later, I was senior account director, and the company had grown from a team of 8 to 36. So it was a rapid rise, and I learnt everything through that job from beginning to end. And that's why I'm a big advocate for apprenticeships, because I do believe it makes us better people if we go into a workplace and we work our way up. We learn so many skills, and we get respect from people because we've done their jobs and we know how things work. I then went down to Cornwall after 2 other jobs with 2 other design agencies in '99, and there were no opportunities for me in Cornwall. And when I was there, my husband left and I had to reinvent myself. So the other lesson we need to learn as women is we're incredibly resilient. I don't know why or how we do it, but we do. And I did quite a lot of work with women's groups when I was in Cornwall, and we are very good at reinventing ourselves. We'll do anything that it takes to get us to where we need to. Just realised the glasses are slipping, not a good look. So when I was in Cornwall, I went and worked for Cornwall's largest law firm, and I had to do their marketing. We had no budget, we had no strategy, but they were Cornish through and through and had been established since the 1700s. But their mission statement was being part of the community of which we serve. So to me, it was crystal clear. We used that as our marketing proposition, and everything we did thereafter was about engaging with the local community, and it worked. So that was really exciting, and I learned so much working with them. Then I helped Cornwall Community Foundation create a business club, which was really exciting, and that became very successful, and I then went and worked for the charity. So I've had the insight of working in the private sector and also in the charitable sector. But my words of wisdom there was, when I went to Cornwall, I knew nobody, not one person. I hadn't got an amazing CV, I hadn't got a degree, but I believed in myself. I knew that I got on with people, and I believed that I was lucky to have that emotional intelligence. And now, 60 years on, that is something that people do recognise and value. And so simply through making really good partnerships, meeting really interesting people who I listened to, and they actually became friends, but they really helped me. So I just want to share that nugget of gold with you. Connections isn't about LinkedIn and sitting behind a screen. It's about getting out there and talking to people and simply listening. Just ask questions and listen. Yes, by all means, after you've had a conversation, go back and become a LinkedIn friend with them. But initially, it's about building those relationships. And the other nugget of gold, I guess, is not to be afraid to ask. People on the whole really want to help you, so it's okay to ask. So I truly believe International Women's Day is a time to celebrate that we as women are amazingly resilient. We do have emotional intelligence. We do have empathy. We know how to listen. And my God, do we know how to time manage, especially if you've got children to look after. And as a single mum, that was one skill I learned quite quickly. So celebrate today. Have a great day. I hope there's a few nuggets of wisdom in there for you. And by all means, contact me via LinkedIn if you've got any questions. My full name is Claire Elizabeth Thayers. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, etc., etc. So I'm sure you can hunt me down, and I'm always here and always happy to be a listening ear to any questions or queries that you've got. We women have to stick together. So have a really, really great life and go and explore and do all the things you want to do. Life's very short.
Hi there, my name's Ellie and I'm the Education and Community Officer at the University of Gloucestershire Students' Union. In my job, I help to influence university strategy and policy, ensure that students' voices are heard and they can make a difference in their educational experience, and advocate for the rights of students within the wider HE sector. I love my job because I get to work with decision makers, make sure students feel happy, confident and safe where they are studying, and I've got the opportunity to make sure that I am not afraid to raise my voice, feel confident and learn how to operate in spaces where I always feel things are much bigger than I am, but I know that I can make a difference. I'd really make sure to influence young people to feel like they have a place in this world and they can make choices, they're in control of who they are, and they've got the right just as much as anyone to be who they want to be.
Hello everyone, my name is Pippa and I'm a WO1 in the British Army. I'm going to talk to you today about my career, some of the highs, some of the, I'm not going to say lows, but some of the not so high bits, and some of the challenges, and a little bit about sport and the personal side of things. I've been in the army for 27 years now. I joined when I was 16, straight from school, and I'm now 43. So quick maths, 27 years later, I'm still going strong. So it was early 1996 and I was walking along Exeter High Street with my mum, and she suggested that we pop our heads into the careers office to see what the army had to offer me. This was slightly swayed by the fact that my sister had already been in the army for 10 years at this time, and she was having great fun, doing lots of things, travelling. So I thought, why not? So I went in and I spoke to the Army Careers Advisor, who spoke to me about the various opportunities, the sorts of grades that I would need to achieve to do the certain jobs, and just gave me a good feel for what the army would be about for the next stage. So I went home, gave it some thought, took my GCSEs, and then it was a waiting game to see if I got the grades required to become a Royal Signals telegraphist, which was my chosen trade. So August came, results day, popped up to school, picked up my results, and thankfully I'd got what was needed to become that specific trade within the Royal Corps Signals. So I was straight on the phone to my recruiter, and he was overjoyed to hear that I'd achieved the required grades. The next decision to make was if I was going to join as what was known as an adult soldier, or if I was going to go to the apprentice college in Arborfield. So I decided that the apprentice college was more for me. Basically, it was all 16 to 17 and a half year olds. Basic training was considerably longer than the 14 weeks that was expected of an adult soldier, adult entry. But for me, leaving home for the first time, it worked better for me to do the 8 months in a place called Arborfield. So I had 6 months from the August until the January. January 97 was my intake. So mum and dad took me to the train station, popped me on a train, and off I went to Arborfield to start my 8 months of basic training. Now, I'm not going to say it was a breeze, because it certainly wasn't. Some days I found myself just wanting to be sat at home on the sofa, eating a bowl of Frosties, watching Saturday morning telly, but instead I was running around a field, shooting weapons, doing first aid, navigation, learning all the new skills. That's massively out of my comfort zone, but I stuck with it, and I was supported throughout by my mum and my dad and my family, and yeah, just a great bunch of people that I went through basic training with, and the training team. I had a great time. There were tough times, definitely. But yeah, I made some friends there, friends that I still continue to be friends with 27 years down the line. So the next stage of my career, on successful completion of my basic training, was to start trade training. So the next stage of my career, following the 8 months in Arborfield, was a 1.5 years of trade training to become a telegraphist within the Royal Signals. This was in Blandford, in Dorset. So again, after a bit of leave, after basic training, I headed on over to Blandford to start my trade training. Again, challenging. This was both physically and mentally. I would say more mentally challenging this time. There was a lot of new skills to learn, a lot of different things that I'd never come across before. But one particular element that I do remember was a physical element. There was an antenna that we had to be able to put up to receive radio signals that was called the Pineapple. And the Pineapple itself was a really, really heavy piece of kit. And I remember the training instructor making sure that both the males and the females within the training team, within the trade training team, were able to put up this antenna. And there was a lot of pressure to make sure that everybody could do it, and we all did. But yeah, it was definitely one that stuck out in my mind as something that was a struggle to do. But yeah, we did everything alongside the men, and 18 months later, we were successful and we passed our trade training. They then taught me to drive. So yeah, I got my driving licence through the military, which was absolutely fantastic. And then we got to put down our posting preference choices. So my first posting was out to Northern Ireland, where I worked in Lisbon and other detachments in Northern Ireland, Palace and Antrim. Again, absolutely fantastic experience. Learned lots, and that was my first posting in the Royal Signals. I've done various postings, to name but a few, Northern Ireland, Germany, Southampton, Winchester, Gloucester, and Cirencester. And it was in 2001 that I decided that I was going to change my trade. So from the Royal Corps of Signals, following a posting to Germany, I opted to change my trade to combat human resources, so administrator. this worked for me, and again, that's where I've spent the majority of my career within the AGC SBS, which is Staff Personnel Support. So that's my postings that I've done. Alongside the postings, I've done some operational tours, which include 5 years in Northern Ireland, 6 months in Bosnia, and 3 tours of Afghanistan. The operational tours, from my perspective, are the most rewarding elements. My tour of Bosnia, I was in the Royal Corps of Signals then, so I was 21, and I was, well, relatively new. I had only been in the military a few years, but I was really well looked after by the more senior and older members, and again, had a fantastic time out in Bosnia, did some interesting work, saw some interesting things. Fast forward about 12 years, and that's when I embarked on my next operational tour of Afghanistan, and then a subsequent 2 operational tours after that, where I can categorically say that the work that I did save lives and was so rewarding. So yeah, I look back and know that I definitely participated in that side of things in Afghanistan. I'm now going to talk to you about the more personal side of things within the military. For the first 20 years, I was what was known as a single living-in soldier. So this meant that I lived in the accommodation on the barracks, always in a single person room, definitely for the latter part. Thinking back, in the early stages it was 4 people in each room, but things have moved on since then, and the majority of accommodation now is single person. You live in the block, you get your meals cooked for you, you get access to the gymnasiums, the med, the dental, all of those side of things are on your barracks. So as far as ease and availability, it's absolutely fantastic. Socially, again, you're living in an accommodation block with your friends, so you know the social side of it is fantastic. For the past 7 years, since getting married, I have lived in what's called married quarters. So they are houses that are located quite close to the military barracks. They could even be co-located with the military barracks, but they are a house, 2, 3, 4 bedroom houses. You get the garden, you get the kitchen. You don't get your meals cooked for you like you do living in the block, but you do get the element of I guess, freedom by not living in the military accommodation. I'm now a mother of 2 children, so my wife and I decided about a year ago that it was about time that we purchased our own property, and we have done so in Gloucester. So that's us settled, no moving around now, but again that comes with its challenges. You know, it's then your own house, you're not looked after so much by the military, but again it is your own house. So that's more about me personally. Being married in the military, again, up to a serving person, so my wife is also serving. That comes with its challenges. When 2 military people are getting posted, you've got to make sure that you can make it work for your family. So there are certain sacrifices that need to be made, but again, both my wife and I are having very successful military careers. So that's a bit of the personal side. Something else that I'm very passionate about is sport. So throughout my time in the military, I've played a considerable amount of sport at army level, and also kind of at corps and regiment level. So I've been to LA, Australia and Portugal to play football. I've been to Hong Kong to play badminton, and I've done triathlon training in both Cyprus and Lanzarote. And at the ripe old age of 43, I still continue to represent in various sports, and there's no sign of it dropping. But the sporting opportunities are absolutely fantastic within the military. So again, if you're into sport, sitting there thinking, what can I do where I get to work and also play sport, I would say the military could be the place for you. A final bit on the other sort of things that are available within the military is education. They accredit a lot of the qualifications that you do to civilian qualifications. So recently I've obtained quite a few project management qualifications, and last year I got a master's at dissertation for a master's, got a distinction for that. Something that again I'm very proud of, leaving school not long after GCSEs and then embarking on a. So I'm going to talk to you now a little bit about the changes that I've come across and heard about since I've been in the military, or at least associated with the military. So during the time when my sister first joined, you weren't able to be pregnant whilst you were in the military. Females didn't carry weapons during drill, and they didn't stamp their feet. These are things that I find so far removed from when I joined up in 1997. We did all the basic training the same as the men. We were shooting, we were firing weapons, we were marching the same way that they were. Another key element that I've seen that's very close to home for me is the LGBT community. It wasn't up until 1999 where it became legal to be part of the LGBT community while serving in the military. Again, something that was actually a thing when I first joined. So we are coming forward leaps and bounds. Women can join the infantry. There's not a job out there now that women can't do alongside the men. And that to me is absolutely fantastic. So that's me, Pippa. I hope you've enjoyed my talk today. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I hope you found it interesting and insightful. Thank you for your time.
My name is Rachel Gelliamasi and I am the Managing Director of Stagecoach West. At Stagecoach West, we operate bus services across 6 counties in the west of England. I'm responsible for around 1,500 people, a mixture of bus drivers, cleaners, engineers, managers and other directors in my head office team. We've got around 550 buses operating across our counties, so it's a pretty large bus company in the UK. So whilst I've worked for Stagecoach for 15 years now, just about going on 16 years actually, my journey in the bus sector started way before that. So back in 1981, I was born into a bus family. My dad was a bus driver in the East Midlands and my mum was a bus conductress. And a bus conductress at that time was the person that rode on the buses and sold all the tickets to the customers, because at that time the bus drivers didn't do that. My mum and dad met and there it was. I was born into the bus industry. So my experience of everything to do with this transport sector was actually something that I observed greatly as a child growing up in that household. So I learned that whilst we're a bus company, this is a sector that's actually all about people. Yes, we are running buses across the different routes and services, but fundamentally, this is an industry where everything is about the people either behind the wheel or the people that are helping to make those services operate. So when I finished my university degree, which was English literature, so it had absolutely nothing to do with transport, but it had been an area that I'd personally found really enjoyable. I was at a crossroads of thinking, what shall I do next? I knew myself well enough to know that I really fancied a job where I would be able to manage and lead people. I really like to organise people, and I really enjoyed the idea of having my own team that I'd be responsible for. So I saw that Stagecoach had a graduate management programme, which is basically an apprenticeship for budding young managers that want to see themselves work up through the organisation to more senior roles. And I thought back to my experience as a young girl in a bus family, and it felt very comfortable to me that I thought, you know what, I actually have a sense of what this industry and this culture might be like. And I remembered acutely that this is going to be a sector about people, and that really appealed to me. So I joined the graduate scheme back in 2007 and I absolutely loved it. The key of this particular programme was getting you to do all the jobs that affected people in the organisation. So first of all, I needed to get my bus licence and learn how to drive buses and actually get out on the road and serve our customers, which was the most exhilarating experience I've ever had. I'd only passed my car test just a couple of years actually before I joined Stagecoach, so I was still fairly new to driving cars, but couldn't believe it that it actually felt easier driving buses than driving my own car, and a lot of bus drivers will tell you the same thing. So I got out there serving our customers. I also cleaned buses. I also worked with engineers in our workshops, did oil changes on buses, and basically covered as many jobs as I could do to really understand what it was like to work in the different departments within Stagecoach. I think the benefit of doing a programme like that for me was it meant that I did the groundwork on understanding what jobs might be like for different perspectives before I was given the responsibility of being able to lead those teams. And I think that's a really important life lesson, because if you want to lead and inspire and be responsible for people, it's actually really, really vital that you take the time to try to understand things from their perspective. So on this graduate programme, the second really lucky thing was that you could work all over the UK to learn your skills and build your experience. So I've spent my career working in West Scotland. I've been as far down as the southeast. I've been YI-PET up in the northeast, and then I based myself in the west of England back in 2014. One of the things that I learned by travelling around the UK and working with so many different teams are the differences in cultures. People are people, don't get me wrong, but actually what makes them tick, how they like to be managed or how they like to be inspired and led, you can find some differences in that as you move around the country. And I personally found that really useful because it gave me some skills and encouraged me to be adaptable, so that I wasn't just one type of manager or one type of leader dependent on where I was in the UK. It actually teaches you to sit back, take stock of how people react to different situations in different parts of the UK, and you can then adapt yourself to make sure that you're just what those team members need in that particular sector or department. So I came here to the west of England back in 2014 and I became an operations director. So I was able to see myself make a move from a manager level, and I got up to a director level, which was a really important career goal for me. Being in a male-dominated industry, yes, I have found that over the course of the years, I found that there are fewer women in the room, fewer women in the conversations than male counterparts. But what that's encouraged me to do is to actually build some confidence in my own decision making, some confidence in my instinct, so that I realise that whilst I may be a minority voice in the room, actually it's really important that all sorts of different perspectives are part of the conversation, particularly when you're making decisions that affect the community that are made up of all different types of people. I think one of the worst business mistakes that you can see are when there is only one single voice or one single perspective, because actually that can mean you make quite limited decisions. So I then was lucky again. I got promoted to my managing director position, and that was in 2021. Coming out of the pandemic, it has been one of the most challenging periods in history for the transport sector, and undoubtedly for many sectors it's been one of the most challenging periods. I would say that what's got me through as a female leader in this business is just making sure that even when times are hard, I've always had allies and mentors around me to give me support when I need it. And when I was a graduate trainee, I needed support, and that's okay. When I've been a manager, you still need support, and no matter what role or what rank that you actually achieve in an organisation, you still have those moments of vulnerability and moments when you might doubt what's the best thing to do in a crisis or a challenge. And actually, it's really, really important that you have a good network of wise people around you that you can go to when you need it. Mentors that I've had of significance over the years, I've had strong female mentors. I've also had some incredible male mentors as well. Because again, it's not about surrounding yourself with one perspective. Actually, we need to have perspectives and viewpoints from as many different people as possible. So I've seen this industry change in my nearly 16 years. I'm seeing more women in the room in the transport sector than there was when I started. And that's really, really helping to mean that there is a diversity in opinions and decision making that we're seeing in our industry. My advice I would give to anyone wanting to embark in a role in the transport sector, or certainly someone who's thinking about wanting to be in a people industry, who sees themselves wanting to be in positions of leadership and responsibility, I would say recognise your value and ability. There are rarely people going into new jobs or sectors thinking that they know everything and that they have all the answers. That very rarely is the case. But just have confidence in yourself that if you have surrounded yourself by really good mentors, these are mentors that you can approach and say, do you know what? You're quite inspiring to me. Can I have that connection and support from you? And you will find that most people will be happy to spend that time to give you the support that you need. But if you have those mentors in place and that support structure around you, trust that any new job is one that you can grow into. Nobody has all the answers on day one, but trust your ability to grow into a role and really excel at it. And if you see an industry or a sector that isn't diverse and doesn't appear like it's got lots of people like you in it at the moment, then think of that as a wonderful opportunity for you to get in there and to give your perspective, your wisdom, your thoughts and experience into that role. Because no matter what sector you're in, having a multitude of different perspectives will mean that that business or that sector has the greatest chance of flourishing, and certainly the greatest chance of giving the customer exactly what they need. Thanks everyone.